Yeah.
All right, we're recording.
All right. The Oregon City Library Board meeting will come to order at 5:33 p.m. In attendance are Larry Osborne, Cynthia Andrews, Nick Dirkman, Scott Edwards, Carrie Linder, and library staff Greg Williams and Denise Butcher. Our first item is approval of the minutes from last month, which you should have received via email last week. Were there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. All right, then we'll go to the library director's report.
Okay. And thank you, Chair Edwards. And actually, I will request permission to switch the order a little bit before I do my report. I'm going to ask if it's okay if we have Gina Bacon and Barrett Miller give their presentation so that we can let them answer your questions, give their information, and then let them go home after a long, hard day at work. So,
Absolutely,
your
without
permission?
objection. Without
All right.
objection.
Thank you so much. So I'm very pleased to introduce Gina Bacon and Barrett Miller. Gina is our adult services librarian. Barrett is our youth services librarian. They were key staff members that helped us put together our 2020 virtual summer reading program. And they have, in your packet, you have reports from each of them, as well as a PowerPoint presentation. And let me get this queued up. I'll ask you, do we want to have the PowerPoint presentation on the screen while we're going through it, or is it easier? Okay, so let me do that. Let's see, and I think Denise, all right, let's
Host.
yeah. Are you able to allow me to share my screen?
Should have it.
There we go. Okay, and we're gonna do it this way. Okay, everybody see that? Is that coming up okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barrett and Gina, I'm going to turn it over to you, and when you need me to go to the next slide, just let me know, and I'll scroll through the pages.
All right, sounds good. Hi, I'm Barrett. I'm the youth services librarian, and I'm going to get us kicked off for the presentation on our summer reading report for 2020. Gina and I are going to kind of trade off. I'll talk about some of the general stuff and the kids stuff, and then Gina will be talking about the adult stuff, for lack of a better term. And if you have any questions, go ahead and either throw them in the chat box or save them until the end. That way we have a chance to get through the full presentation, and then we can take questions at the end. So Greg, go ahead and hop us to the next slide. Thank you. So for those of you who've been on the board for a while, you're probably used to summer reading reports looking a certain way or descriptions of our program being a certain way. And this year was obviously very different. Instead of offering an in-person program this year, we did an online only summer reading program using software called Beanstack. They have a website and an app, and we had 581 people participate in that program. Couple of other big changes is that for the kids program and the teen program, we typically have coupons to local businesses, the Portland Thorns and Timbers soccer team, the Trailblazers, and those were quite rightly canceled regionally this year. So we didn't have our traditional coupons or our treasure chest prizes for kids and teens. So both kids and adults did all of our prize distribution through prize drawings using the Beanstack software, and we gave away almost $2,000 in prizes, much of that gift cards to local businesses that the library purchased to help support the small businesses and family-owned businesses in our community. Since we couldn't do in-person giveaways or events, we did quite a bit of prize distribution and some activity kits through mail, or included those things in people's no contact pickup. So over 1,000 books, tote bags, and kits were distributed this summer. And then for our children's programs, we moved many of our events online, and we offered several virtual versions of our regular summer reading program activities. and that actually went better than I might have expected. We had 26 virtual programs and over 2,000 people view those videos or participate in an activity. All right, Greg, next slide. Thank you. I have a quick budget breakdown for the children's program. Traditionally, the bulk of our funds come from the Ready to Read grant, which is a program through the state library that provides funding for public libraries to use for summer reading. We get about $8,600, and we use almost all of it to purchase 2,500 prize books to distribute to kids in our service area. The Friends are also very generous, and that for the past several years, they have supported our family concert series. When we went virtual this year, 7 of our 9 performers were willing to provide a virtual concert for us, so we were able to transition that online using those funds. The library budget played a really big role this year, perhaps larger than in past years, because we had to purchase the Beanstack software for the online program. We also purchased for the children's programs additional gift cards, and then there were some regular craft purchases that we were planning, tote bags for adult that we typically plan on. And then we also spent quite a bit of money mailing things out to people since we were not able to provide in-person services. And then I do want to acknowledge Mike's Drive-In. Of the local businesses we contacted, I offered to purchase gift cards, and they said, we're doing okay right now. We really want to make sure that families in our community are doing okay and that we're supporting them. So Mike's very generously donated their gift cards. We did not purchase those from them. So I wanted to thank them because it was a tough year, and it was helpful for us, and it was good for the community that they were in a position where they were able to be so generous. All right, next slide. We also had a very compressed timeline this year. Normally for children's, I have all of my planning done like in January or February, and then 2020 happened. So we had to, we found out at the beginning of April that if we wanted to go with Beanstack, we would need to commit to them by April 15th. And so we had 2 weeks to review all of the software options, review Beanstack, and make a decision about which program to go with. And of all the options I looked at, Beanstack was by far the most user-friendly. So once we selected Beanstack at the beginning of May, like the first week of May, we got access to the software to be able to start designing our summer reading program. And we had to have everything done and submitted to them for review by May 15th. So we had 2 weeks to completely reimagine and build an online summer reading program. And then at the end of May, we got approval, and we were able to begin training staff and promoting the program. So June 15th was the first day to sign up, and then through August 31st, members of the community who could register, they would log their reading and enter their tickets into a virtual prize drawing. Next slide. For kids, we did something very different this year. Usually it's more of an age-based program, where there's one for very young children, one for elementary students, and one for middle school and high school students. This year we did 3 different program options for ages 0 to 17. We knew that school was very difficult in the spring, and we wanted to offer the most flexibility possible so that summer reading could stay fun and not and be something that could be tailored more to what each individual kid needed. So we had a daily reading challenge where kids and teens would set a daily goal and keep track of how many days they met their goal. We had what we called the book badge challenge, and library staff came up with 24 different categories, and kids could read anything they wanted as long as it fell within that category. And then we had a design your own challenge to meet a need expressed for some non-screen time, where kids could come in, they could set a goal in the app, and then they would track offline and report back at the end of the summer. And then Gina can tell you about what the adult program did, which was fun and awesome.
Yes, thank you. So this year for the adult summer reading program, we tried to just translate as much as possible what we normally do for adult summer reading into Beanstack. So normally we have, you earn chances to win prizes by completing books and completing activities. Traditionally, they've been bingo cards and crosswords. It's very straightforward. We try to keep it pretty simple for adults, since we just don't want to make it complicated, especially if they have children that they're keeping track of as well. So this year we used Beanstack to earn badges, which would get you opportunities to enter into drawings. So for every book you read, you got a drawing ticket. And for every activity, which this year we had crosswords, word search, and a bingo card, you also got tickets. And then this year, because BeanStack offered this, we allowed you to earn tickets for writing reviews. So we also got some patrons writing reviews of the books they completed to earn extra tickets. Yeah, that's good. I won't go much further because we're limited on time, so I'll leave it there.
Registration was much lower this year than in past years for kids. As I said, we bought 2,500 books, fully expecting that we would give all 2,500 of those books away, because that's usually how many kids sign up for our program. We had, around 350 sign up this year for kids. By far, daily reading was our most popular, but adults did really well this year. It was awesome. Because Gina, wasn't that fairly close? Or not?
Yeah, so last year we had 433 signups. So we dropped a bit, but that could be expected. It wasn't something that we were, that would have been amazing if we'd reached the same that we did last year. So we did okay given the circumstances, the short notice, the stress of everything. So
yeah, and definitely a better percentage than kids. Okay, next slide. And then we just have a quick age breakdown. For kids, our most popular age group was elementary, but we had pretty good showings from our preschoolers and our middle and high school too. Okay, next slide. For each of the different challenges that we offered, Gina and I broke down the stats so that you would have the option to compare them with a little bit more detail about the programs. So for the daily reading challenge, we had, again, it was our most popular challenge. Patrons could choose between, they had 3 options. We recommended a story, song, or rhyme each day for preschoolers, 25 minutes of reading or listening for older kids, or you could pick whatever you wanted. All told, we had almost 8,000 days of reading by our readers, which was pretty nice. Go ahead and go to the next slide. We also, for every 5 days that they read, they had a chance to, they unlocked a badge, which gave them 2 prize drawing tickets. And we put the breakdowns on here just to sort of show how that ended up working out. And Menchie's and White Rabbit were across the board our most popular options, which I can't blame them. I like those too. Next slide. For our book badge challenge, as I said, staff came up with 24 categories, and kids and teens could read any book they wanted as long as it fit within the category we came up with. So a couple examples are, fantasy or a science fiction book, a book that makes you smile, a poem. And we were really open with what counted as a book. So print books, ebooks, audiobooks, graphic novels, all that stuff. We had 50 kids and teens participate, and they read 440 books, which was awesome. Go ahead, next slide. And once again, they love their frozen yogurt and their White Rabbit. Next slide. And they did get because there were more, the way we were able to work it out is that for each book would be 1 ticket for that. And then I did want to include our most popular categories for that challenge. Unsurprisingly, Reader's Choice was in the lead, but it tied for cool cover art. And then books that make you happy, a book based on a movie or a TV show, or classics, which I was not expecting that one. So yay. All right, next slide. The riskiest challenge we did for kids and teens was the Design Your Own challenge, which they would come in, set a reading goal for themselves, track the goal offline, and then come back to tell us about it. And we had 21 register for the challenge, 12 set their goal, and 0 meet their goal. So we were warned by the BeanStack staff that they were like, this does not have a lot of engagement. We don't think people are going to do this. And I said, well, we're trying it for offline engagement. We'll see how it goes. And the BeanStack folks were right. This was not super engaging, and that's okay. You learn. So next slide. For setting their goal, they did get 2 tickets. So we did have a few people enter. And again, not a big change from our other challenges. Next slide. I did want to share some of the example goals, which were excellent goals, and they may have been met, just nobody told us about them. So some were time-based. There was one person who wanted to read 120 hours. Some were a number of books based, so they wanted to do 30 books over the summer, but any that they wanted not in our categories. And then we had one person who wanted to read books and plant a raised garden bed. And I really liked that. So I'm a little disappointed this one didn't work out, but we'll have the chance to expand on this for next summer. All right, next slide. Gina will give you a similar overview for how the adult challenges worked.
Yes, so for the adult summer reading challenges, we did have 229 register for a challenge. However, we only had 119 actually read a book. That being said, those who did participate completed, 79 people completed activities, and there was an average of 12 books read per reader, which I believe there may have been some people reading a lot, messing up that average. I think it should have been like 5. But in total, there was 1,544 books read, which is pretty great. You can go to the next slide. I'll just scream slide at you, Greg. So as I mentioned before, here are some of the activity badges that you could earn to get tickets. Reading a book, bingo card, crossword, word search. All of these got you tickets into our prize drawings. There were 4 different ways to win. Slide, let me just see what the next one is. Nope, never mind, but this is great. There were 4 prizes. There was a weekly drawing, which normally we used to have a cart that we would have books on, and winners of the weekly drawing would get to pick something from the treasure chest, get to take a book, and get a $5 gift card to Dutch Brothers. But this year we wanted to encourage, or we wanted to support, excuse me, our local businesses. So we spent money on gift cards for the weekly drawing. So this year, if you won the weekly drawing, you still got a book off the book cart. We were able to send lists out. You still got your Mike's $5, but instead of a treasure chest pick, the treasure chest was a number of gift cards that we purchased from local businesses this year. The other 3 prizes were gift baskets, all sort of revolving around the theme of this year, which was to create your own story. So they were all kind of creative gift baskets. One was like a karaoke machine with books. One was a camera, an action camera, like I forget what they're called, the ones you put on your helmet.
GoPro.
GoPro, thank you very much. A GoPro camera. And then the third was the art supplies. There was an art supply gift basket. So those were the 4 ways to win. We ended up giving 12 weekly winners, those the $5 gift card, book cart, and $20 gift card. And then there were 3 grand prize winners. So this slide, because I jumped ahead, this slide shows how many people completed the different activities. Obviously reading was the biggest one, but it was interesting to see what people chose to participate in terms of other activities. Slide. Perfect. And then this shows how many people, what they put their drawings in for. So that adventure gift basket was #1 all the way. People wanted that GoPro camera. But the weekly drawing was also really popular since it sort of increases your likeliness to win since there's more than one drawing. Slide. Oh, I'll hand it back to Barrett for the top 10 kids and teens books.
So one of the cool things about the book badge challenge was that in order to earn their prize drawing tickets, the kids had to tell us what book they had read to meet that challenge. So we were able to put together a list of top 10 books. And I thought that it ended up being a really great list. There was a fantastic mix of newer stuff, of some classics, and a nice selection of diverse books as well. So I just kind of wanted to highlight some of those top books and show you what the kids in Oregon City who did our program were reading. All right, slide.
The kids are all right. The kids are so all right that adults also love to read their books, because several of the top 10 books that we had for adults were young adult books, which is pretty cool. The Hate You Give being one of them. Harry Potter will never die. It will always be up there getting read. The other books, Right Fragility, Where the Crawdads Sing, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, a classic, Lord of the Flies, The Martian, White Chrysanthemum, and The Home for Unwanted Girls. So those were our top 10 for adults. Slide. Sorry.
I have a quick overview of the online activities of special things we did for the Imagine Your Story theme. As I mentioned earlier, we moved our virtual family concerts online. We had 7 concerts with the videos were posted to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and were available to watch for 2 weeks after the posting date, the date they aired. And we had over 1,200 video views for an average of about 173 per concert. Now we know that some of those views were some people saying, maybe 5-10 seconds. So they weren't full views, but we also know that some of those views were full views with, maybe 3 or 4 people watching. So I was pretty pleased with those numbers. They're comparable to an in-person event. We also did a fairy tale and folktale series. These videos were filmed mostly before the library began no contact pickup. So it was a way for our on-calls to get some additional hours in. And it was staff reading or telling various fairy tales. And we had 12 of those videos with about 1,000 views over the course of the summer. For teens, we tried some virtual escape room programs. So we had fairy tales, Harry Potter, and Greek myths, and it was sort of a choose your own adventure trivia hybrid using Google Forms where it was a story and they'd go through and they'd have to answer questions. And once they got the questions correct, they'd move on to the next part of the story. Those did okay. We had about 20 people doing each one. They were open for 2 weeks to participate. And then we did trivia matching the theme. So there would be 2 weeks of fairy tale escape room, and then there would be a fairy tale trivia. And if you played the escape room, you would have an edge for the trivia. But they were happening on the weekend. We know people were traveling and out of town and had other things going on. So trivia participation was a little bit low. Gina, did you want to say anything about adult bingo?
The only thing I'll say about adult bingo, which if anyone was here, they would know this. It was an experiment. We decided to try Facebook Live, do a little live bingo. There was some serious hiccups. I was just talking. I didn't know if I was talking to myself for most of the time. But we did have some participation. We had about 11 people, which is great. And someone did win a prize. But we have not done a Facebook Live event since. So I'll just put it that way.
Fine. We also did a lot by mail this summer since we couldn't do things in person. One of our staff members, Adam, put together an online form where people could request a book, craft kits, and include their mailing address, and we would send things to them by mail. We learned a lot through this process about how not to do online kit requests. And so now we've been doing things for monthly craft kits in the fall, and it's gone a lot more smoothly. But the behind the scenes for this was a little bit stressful, but we got it figured out. We made it work. When we could, we included things in no contact hold pickups to save on postage, but otherwise we mailed things bundled for families as much as possible so that we weren't mailing out each individual thing. So we sent out almost 600 books for kids and teens, 250 craft kits for kids, 86 teen craft kits, 20 adult art kits, and 78 tote bags. All right, slide. Almost done, I promise. We did try to collect some community feedback. I sent out a survey, but did not get a ton of responses. But when we did when we chose our gift card winners, a lot of people provided feedback in the emails that they sent us about their gift cards. So we had some positive feedback. Some people really liked the site. And then my all-time favorite was we did have one parent actually sent us a Facebook message about the craft kit that they requested, sending us photos of their kids doing the kit, saying, thank you so much. This was a lifesaver on a day where my kids were super bored. So it was nice to actually see that working. Gina, did you want to say anything about the adult feedback?
Most of the feedback that I got was when I was in communication with people about tote bags or about prizes, and it was very nice. I shared some with staff. It was just very nice to hear so much positivity from our community and how much they appreciated that we were doing things still and that they missed us. And so that was really nice. That was most of the feedback that we got.
Cool. All right, this is our last slide. Just takeaways, things we're going to be doing next year or considering next year. We did sign a 2-year contract with Beanstack, so we will be offering online summer reading for all ages in 2021. It's a really smooth and easy to use system, and in children's it will make a lot of things that we do in person much easier. We are going to be going back, evaluating what worked and what didn't this summer, and refining our program based on data and feedback. And we've also been talking about expanding some of our take and make kit options. The craft kits, as we saw from the parent that I just mentioned on the previous slide, there are some days where it is really handy to have those kits at home for your kids, and particularly if we're still dealing with some social distancing and limited space issues next year. Craft kits will be a really good way to meet the needs of kids who might not be able to, because of their parents' work schedule or transportation, might not be able to come in person, or to offer a program to more kids when we couldn't in person. that was a pleasant discovery this year. And then Gina had a couple of adult takeaways.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, one of the obvious challenges was that we weren't in the building, and that we do a lot of the recruiting for adult summer reading in person. And so looking forward, sorry. The other big challenge was designing a Beanstack program in like 2 weeks. That was a big one. So the good thing is that next year we can kind of address both of those things. So looking forward, I hope to be able to explore Beanstack more thoroughly and hopefully deal with some of the issues that we ran into this year better. And hopefully next year we'll have some contact and be open a little bit. So hopefully we can do a hybrid sort of thing for adults at least, but that is yet to be seen. If you want to make God laugh, make a plan. So we're just going to see what happens with that, but here's to hoping. So yeah.
Okay. I will stop sharing. Thank you, Barrett. Thank you, Gina. And before we if you have questions, I also want to recognize them. They alluded to this, the time frame in which Gina and Barrett and the other members, we called them the Beanstack Bunch, that they had in order to put this together absolutely from scratch. I mean, just basically every plan that we had for summer reading had to go out the door. They did this from scratch. This was also right in the middle of where we had to move out of the building and learn how to work from home and how to collaborate as a team using all these new technologies. I am so tremendously impressed with the product and the work that they were able to do. So I want to make sure that that comes through loud and clear. That
Go on, Greg, go on.
They did a fantastic job under some of the most challenging circumstances that I could possibly imagine. So my hat's off to them. I just want to make sure everybody realizes how much work and effort they did, and they did an amazing job. So with that, yeah, if you have any questions for Gina and Barrett, feel free.
I have no questions, but great job. Thank you for that presentation. That's is the library board allowed to take part in the reading program? Is that a conflict of interest? I might do
Not at
that.
all.
No!
Absolutely.
I got tote bags still, if you need some tote bags.
Yeah.
What was funny was that, so that bag policy came into place where, you know, stores weren't allowed to have bags. And I was like, oh man, all right, I got a little extra money. I'm going to spend some on some nice bags. They're going to be the nice bags. And so I did. And then COVID happened. It was like, oh, now you can't bring in your own bags. And it's a lot less appealing. So you need a tote bag. I got them. They're very nice.
We can make sure. We also learned the tote bags, we became experts in mailing things out. So we learned that the tote bag has a little plastic nub that you cinch the strings with. And that little plastic nub made them just thick enough that we had to pay the higher rate. We couldn't send them first class mail. We had to send them parcel mail, which is like an extra $1.50, you know, each one. So every time we sent one out, I was just grinding my teeth like, so.
Well, adults save a lot of money on not having any programs. So it's
Right.
like, wow. Save some money here, save some money there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just so impressive how the staff has risen to the challenge time and time again during this time. I'm so impressed with the creativity and the work and the commitment and the dedication. And I really admire you for saying, well, that didn't work out so well, but we learned from that. Because sometimes it's hard to say, well, that didn't work. But I think you have to have some failures, because if you don't have any failures, it probably proves you're not really moving ahead. So I just want to say, you know, just because X, Y, Z didn't work as you had intended, great. You learn from that, move on, you'll do something else the next time. So please don't feel, you know, bad about things that didn't work like you hoped or had thought you would, because that just shows, well, we tried that, we learned something, moving on to something different. And I really like that. And I appreciate the fact that you reported that and are moving on and learning from what you did. So, because who knows how long this is going to last.
Yes, there's a large portion on the adult one of challenges. There were a lot of challenges. So it's like,
but that's okay.
It's
that
okay.
means
Yeah.
that you tried stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and now you can try something else.
Totally.
You know, so.
No, thank you. Yeah, we definitely learned a lot this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Gina or Barrett? Okay. Gina and Barrett, you're welcome to stick around if you would like, but I would love for you to go home and have a good evening. And thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for everything.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Have a
thank you.
productive,
Thank
wonderful
you.
meeting.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
On to the library director's report.
Okay. Thank you. So this month I managed to include the director's report in the packet, so I got that down. I do apologize again for the weird formatting. We got feedback from our vendor on why that happened, so hopefully next month the numbering will work well. Let's see, director's report. So I won't go through everything. If there are questions about something that's in there, please let me know, but I do want to hit a couple of the bigger highlights. I do briefly want to say last month with the wildfires, it was another very challenging month for everybody, but for library staff as well. And I did want to once again just compliment our staff in their efforts to help out the city. The city spun up a wildfire information line within the course of about a day. And especially at the beginning, library staff were the ones who were available to staff it, and we figured out how to make the technology work. And I was very pleased. What better people to have giving out important information and helping patrons than library staff? So it was just it worked out really well, and I was so proud of our staff for just hopping to it and just pitching in and just wanting to be there and help out our community. So my kudos to them in a very challenging month. All right, so the biggest updates I have, the first one I want to make sure we talk about is under the library operations section, so our holds pickup. So we are moving with the weather changing and it becoming rainy and windy. We spent a few weeks talking with our parks department and our facilities department about what options we had for doing holds pickup outside. There really weren't any good options to do holds pickup outside. We do have that covered walkway outside the 6th Street entrance, but by design, it does not cover the entire walkway. It lets rain and wind in. I think part of that is probably to discourage sleeping, overnight outside in there. We talked about tent options or putting up plexiglass to cover some of those gaps, and for various reasons, none of those were feasible. And the best option that we came up with was to, as safely as possible and being consistent with distancing and mask wearing and all other protocols, was to move holds pickup inside the building. So starting on Monday, we will be moving holds pickup inside. I gave you some information in the report. If you have questions, let me know. But the basic way it's going to work is it will still be appointment based. We need to make sure that we're controlling capacity. We know if we just open it up right away, we would have hundreds of people waiting at the door to get in the building, and that's not safe for anybody. So we will continue with our appointment-based system. After a few months, people have kind of gotten the rhythm down. We are going to, so we will have signage outside, both physical signage, and we are planning to have some reader boards visible through a window that will let people know what time it is and which appointments are coming up next. So as when they arrive at the library, they can verify that, oh yes, it's time for me to come in, or no, it's not time for me to come in right yet. People will enter through the 6th Street doorway. They will, just as they have already been doing, pick up their bag, which will be waiting for them. And then they will exit out the 7th Street doorway. It will be one-way traffic flow. We will have a staff member there kind of watching, able to answer very basic questions that a patron may have. But if people have significant questions, we are going to refer them to our phone or email lines to get those questions answered. And that is, we have our distancing set up. We will be requiring everybody who enters the building to wear masks. We have some talking points that, we are optimistic and that most everybody is used to doing this at other places now. And so we don't anticipate a whole bunch of problems or, pushback from asking to wear masks, but we will be prepared if that happens. So Denise and Katrina, our circulation supervisor, and I will be on hand, especially in the first couple of weeks. At the first sign of anybody, wanting to discuss this or challenging this, we will move them through the building and have those discussions outside where we can have them safely and keep everything, moving for the rest of our patrons and staff. So That's kind of the biggest thing that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks. And I anticipate there might be questions or comments. So if you want to talk about that, by all means.
So I'm assuming you'll also have masks on hand for people to and give them.
Yes. So
And
we will
then-
have masks both in the vestibule as they enter, and we will also have masks inside at a farther table, so that if somebody misses the mask on the inside and we see they're not wearing a mask, we will very politely ask them, please, there are masks available right behind you, please put one on. If they refuse, state guidance, says that we are to make reasonable accommodations, and so we will let the person know we will be happy to work with you to get you your materials in some other way. But choosing to not wear a mask in a public facility is not a reasonable accommodation that we can make at this point. So we will have to ask you to leave the building, and we will work with you to get you your materials some other way. So
I know we've had church for the last 2 weeks for the first time since March. And the first thing you do is get a temperature check on your forehead, and then you have to use hand sanitizer. Are those options?
we will have hand sanitizer. We have hand sanitizer stations that will be at the entrance, and I think we'll have one inside as well. Temperature checks at this point, we're not doing them. We have talked in the city about doing it. There's some issues with doing that. I have gotten some quotes on some automated temperature checking units that they have units now that will scan people coming in, and it can detect both temperature and mask wearing. They claim like within 50 milliseconds. That the software is that good. All that requires a little more evaluation to make sure that it lives up to the claims, especially for that amount of money. But at the moment, no, we're not planning to do temperature checks. But that's not to say that we won't start doing it, or if further guidance comes out from the state, we may end up having to do that. So.
I have one last question. You mentioned this because it is now the rainy season of bringing this inside. My concern is that if we're going from 6th or 7th to exiting then on 6th or 7th, you're having every patron is going to have a long walk in the wind and the rain and the snow and what is there is no other is there an option that people can come in and then exit out in the same way, like they come in through the entrance and come out to the community room or something, like the exit there? Is that a...
No, so the community room is still being used as our staging area. So our space challenges begin with the fact that our circulation area, where we in normal times, we do all of our circulation activities, we can fit one person in there under current distancing guidelines. So it is completely insufficient to do everything that we need to do to prepare holds. So all of that has moved into the community room. So that's where we have most of our holds pickups being prepared. We lay everything out the night before, we check it in the morning, we have those ready to go. So we can't have patrons going through there. We had thought about, can you come in one and go out the other, but the guidance from the state is, especially for libraries, is in order to help maintain that distance, one-way traffic is a very good way to do that. We do anticipate we are going to have some questions and some comments about the fact, how come I have to go all the way around the building? And the best answer that we have at this point is this is a pandemic. This is, these are the constraints that we're operating under. And this is what we need to do to be able to keep our staff and our community safe in this environment. And so hopefully we'll get that information out so people know before they come that that's what they're going to be asked to do. And if it's a huge barrier to picking up holds, we can try to work with them, figure something else out. Probably mailing them their hold if they have a real mobility challenges and navigating that. So.
I don't have any more questions. Does anyone else?
I think you hit them all, Scott. That was great. I was just waiting for you to finish, and you asked every question I thought of. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll keep you posted as to how that goes. The other big thing that we've been working on that I want to highlight is our Halloween programming. So we know that this year, Halloween was going to be very different for kids and families. My house is no exception. Jake is very disappointed at the fact that there will not likely be no trick-or-treating this year. So we wanted to try to do something just to offer our community some other opportunities for Halloween-related activities and fun. And so all of our programming this month is Halloween themed. We're doing Halloween themed story times. We have some Halloween themed passive programming. Our trivia on October 30th is going to be Halloween themed trivia. We have Commissioner Rocky Smith presenting his Haunted History program, which we're all very excited about. And our Poetry Corner, which has gotten some great reviews. This month it's Spooky Poetry Corner with Gray. So if you want to see some really cool effects and some good Edgar Allan Poe poems read in a very spooky manner, I encourage you to watch those. But it's been a lot of fun for us to try to figure out how to make some Halloween programming, and we think the feedback that we've received so far is the community really does appreciate the efforts to kind of do a little something fun for Halloween. So other than that, in the director's report, I put some information, some recent communications from our LDAC chair, Al Mateco, some patron feedback that we had gotten. And I was very proud of I also put in our one of our concerts, our Natalia bilingual virtual concert. I just wanted to share again that we're so pleased at the number of views that has received. It's about 380 times that it's been viewed, which is fantastic. And we have been working to try to improve our communications with the school districts and to let them know about programming and services that we offer. And we were so pleased to see that this bilingual program got picked up as a curriculum piece for the Jennings Lodge Spanish immersion program. So they included it in as a curriculum assignment for a week for their Spanish immersion students to view our library program. So we were so pleased at that. It was just a great example of us trying to work more closely with the school district to let them know what we have available, to try to meet some needs that they've identified, and it worked out really well. So we're very pleased. And with that, that's my report. Is there anything in there that anybody had questions about or wanted to follow up on?
I don't have a question, but I have a compliment for you because I was really impressed with your signage at the very beginning, that you put a positive twist on things rather than saying we're closed. I thought that was really nifty. Good thinking.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we were trying to strike that balance between, for our messaging, we're trying to make it clear that we're not, the building's not open. We can't have, hundreds or thousands of people showing up right away, but we wanted to make sure everybody knew, yes, we're here. We are still providing services. It's just we're providing them in a slightly different way, by appointment and online. So thank you. That's great to hear. Okay.
I did have one thing that occurred to me.
Yes.
You'd mentioned, you don't want to have everyone suddenly just show up without appointments, but is that something, there's a plan to work forward to having pickups without an appointment?
It's something that we have talked about and something we've looked at. It's something that we can continue to evaluate. The feedback that we've heard from some other libraries who have gone to that, part of the reason they did it is they had some challenges with actually getting the appointment set up. We have not experienced those challenges. So we were able to kind of get an appointment system that works well for the staff that we have available. It makes it easier for us to prepare all of those holds and get them ready. Letting people back into the building to do some self pickup of holds, it's a spacing challenge. So the media room where we have the holds right now, based on my latest calculations with some space, some COVID-related space guidance that is being used in another state, because Oregon doesn't have it. We could probably get 3 to 4 people in there at most at once, and there's also DVDs in there. In our facility, it's very challenging for me to see a way that we could let people in and be able to to be able to serve as many people and to be able to turn over as many holds as we are now. You know, the way that we're doing it now, we can get those holds out, we can get materials into people's hands, we can do it safely, and we have not yet found another way to do it better than that. Doesn't mean we aren't looking, but that's where we are at the moment.
And so when you're doing the outside pickups, you have 3 tables.
Correct.
Are you going to be able to do that if people are coming inside? And it's
Yes.
all okay. All right.
Yep. So we will have at least 3. We do have some more space. We have other tables that we can do. We are looking at what we can do with those other tables. We are talking about things. We're talking about printing pickup. We're kind of about 80% of a way through some plans to make it so that people could send a print job and we can have that available for pickup. We will be doing some book bundles, some kids book bundles we're going to start with, so that when people come to pick up their holds, they will also have the option. We'll have a little menu up that will say, you know, we have bags available to have 10 random picture books in it, or 10 level 2 easy readers in there. And all people have to say is, oh yeah, I'd like to grab one of those. And the staff member can grab it, put it on the table, you know, have the person take it, keep our distance. But with the extra tables that we have in there, we might be able to do some more things like that. So we're looking at doing some adult bundles, you know, movies or books like that. And we may have the option of expanding and letting 1 or 2 more people in at a time to pick up their holds. But we'll get this first phase down first and make sure that's working the way we want it.
Greg, could you spend like a minute on the finances? I didn't have a chance to go through all the reports.
Sure.
And just wondered how we're doing. We're a quarter way into the new fiscal year, and just if you can just briefly.
Let me get up there. So finances at this point, I'm not. There's nothing that causes me any concern at this. There's nothing on the expense side, I will say, or on the revenue side up to this point that causes me a great deal of concern. Our expenses are, you know, on track. Some of the expenses that we've incurred dealing with the COVID situation, we have been successful in getting some reimbursement under the CARES Act.
Okay.
So as an example, all of the extra bins that we had to order to be able to store quarantined materials, we submitted those for reimbursement and those were all approved. And so I think, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, about 60 or 70,000.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. So just for the library. And we've also been able to get some staff time reimbursed for the CARES Act. So anything that the city has been very good about coding time and coding expenses that are directly related to responding to the COVID emergency to make sure that we can submit and get reimbursed under the CARES Act. So yes, a lot of the stuff that we've been incurring expenses for, we've gotten reimbursed for. The big unknown is the property tax. You know, what property taxes and delinquencies are going to look like, and we'll have a better idea of that in a month or 2. There has been nothing that we've heard, you know, like at the state level, the picture in recent months has gotten better. Right. They redid their forecast and they increased revenue. You know, they originally had their shortfall, about $2 billion of the anticipated shortfall disappeared, which was great news to hear. So, so we're hoping that property taxes are not going to take a huge hit. We'll see what happens in a couple of months. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other specific questions about budget finance that you have?
No, that's a good summary.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, the budget process, I think if the city gets started in earnest January, is that correct, Denise? Yeah. So yeah, in a couple of months, you know, we'll be getting into budget season. So we're starting to do some pre-work now. But I will, of course, make sure that we have discussions so everybody can weigh in on where we're going with our budget request and, you know, kind of what we see come forward. So.
Okay.
That the end of the library director's report.
Unless anybody has any other questions about statistics or our social media statistics.
All right, we'll move on then. Thank you, Greg. We'll move on to the next item, which is public comments. And I don't believe we have any.
No.
So we'll move on then to discussion items. We did the 2020 summer reading program review. And then Greg, you have a materials handling update for us.
Yes. So this has been one of the more challenging aspects of this pandemic is in almost every aspect of providing service, there's different guidance out there. So as I think everybody knows, we have been following, per previous guidance from the State Library of Oregon, we've been following the realm study recommendations. That study was looking at how long the virus persists on surfaces, especially of library materials. So we, along with every other library in the Link Cooperative, had been following those. And as of about beginning of September, we were all observing a 6-day quarantine period. That's fairly typical. I think, looking at what our Washington County was doing the same thing and looking at libraries around the area, around the nation, the quarantine periods were ranging between 3 and 7 days. On October 5th, the State Library sent out some new guidance, which I included in your packet, that the Oregon Health Authority took a look at some of the data, and they came back with their thinking that, I believe the way they phrased it was, overnight is probably okay, and 24 hours is probably even better. We took that to our Clackamas County public health person. She said she would not recommend anything less than 24 hours. We've been researching this. 2 days after that guidance came out, there was a study that was released in Australia, which you may have seen about. I'm working my way through it. It found that there's virus persistence in 68-degree environment up to 28 days. And it's a challenging situation. I wanted to, as representatives of the community, what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the public health impact with operational and service efficiencies. And I just wanted to have a discussion with you all about your feelings on where we should land on that balance. I will tell you that personally, I don't feel that the 24-hour guidance is sufficient. It feels a little short to me, especially with the thought that there's a lot that happens to these materials. We want to make sure that something doesn't accidentally get processed more quickly than it should. But I wanted to get your feedback, and your feedback as members of the community. What's the most responsible way for the library to go forward in this pandemic environment, balancing kind of the service needs to get materials out there with the public health impact? So I'd be very keen to hear your thoughts, if you have any to share.
Well, I will say that I'm a COVID sissy. And so, and so it seems to me that the OHA regarded some very good research done through the Realm Project. And who knows why that happened, what political pressures there might have been in play or whatever. And since the OHA does not set the policies for the state library or for the individual local libraries, feels to me that erring on the side of conservatism to protect staff and patrons, to protect staff in particular in closed environment, is really the ethical thing to do. Thus far, that you've been quarantining the material for whatever, 72 hours or whatever it's been, it hasn't had a negative impact on your services or users to any great degree, because most public library users are not having an urgent need for a particular piece of material, as you would say maybe in an academic library. So I vote for keeping the more conservative quarantining of materials. It just seems sensible in light of the Realm study, the studies, and ethical in terms of exposure of the staff and the public to potential COVID infection.
I would point out that there is no evidence the OHA is in any way being influenced politically. And if you go and look at the realm studies, they're little ridiculous. I mean, we're not talking about real world situations in the realm studies. I mean, they basically coded books in COVID. When you actually look at what would happen to a library material, that maybe someone coughed on it who actually had COVID. COVID isn't going to be evident on those library books in 3 or 4 days. Because I mean, that was a question I had a couple months ago, but didn't ask. But now that I have gone over the guidance now from the OHA, the realm studies seem completely unreasonable, not a real world application of what the library would be facing with library materials.
Greg, what are the other library directors, what are they saying? And is there a consistent policy across all of Clackamas County libraries?
So the county office is requiring at least a 24-hour quarantine, which of course we will go by. My understanding is that about 7 or 8 libraries have gone to a 24-hour quarantine. Others are looking at it. Washington County, I believe, has gone to 24 hours. I do not know what Multnomah County is doing. I checked their website and they are still, as far as I can tell, they are still observing a 96-hour quarantine period.
Okay.
I heard, through some unofficial channels that they were examining a 72-hour period, but I have no confirmation of that, whether that's accurate or not. I can tell you I was on a webinar last week, that was put on by the Realm folks, and had libraries from all over the country participating and sharing their quarantine periods. Their quarantine periods, again, seem to fluctuate around that 3 to 7 day mark. The Realm folks had the Northeast Document Center in to give a lot of information about what they're doing. They're still observing, I believe, a 7-day quarantine period on their materials. So yeah, it's all over the place. So
Scott is right in regards that the Realm study was done under more of a laboratory type setting that is unlikely in terms of intensity to occur on regular library materials. But I feel that a medium kind of quarantine of 72 hours or whatever your staff feels comfortable with, still err on the side of caution.
yeah.
Like I said, I'm a COVID sissy, so.
And I will tell you that when we've talked about this, I like to err on the side of caution as well. There's so much, from my perspective, almost everything we've learned during the course of this pandemic, we learn more, and it seems to be we learn that it acts in ways that we don't yet understand, or that we didn't have complete information. I understand that 6 days is a very long time to quarantine things. I can tell you that my gut feeling is to continue with a longer quarantine than 24 hours, but go to something like 72 hours. Which I think strikes that reasonable balance between providing enough time for the vast majority of potential virus to attenuate off the surfaces. I do have to be concerned about the fact that, my staff is handling multiple multiple items, hundreds of items a day. And from everything I've read, there's potential that this exposure is cumulative. So, the more viral load that you may be exposed to, it may increase your chances. That is what I am, that's what I am thinking of and what I would recommend to the board, that we would go forward with a 72-hour quarantine period. But
just one real quick question. When we say quarantine, those are the materials that are coming back into the library, and we're holding them for 72 hours before we do anything with them. Is that correct?
So for the ones that are being returned to the library, yes, it would be a 72-hour quarantine period. What we would do with the courier deliveries is, the way we have timed this out is, so we already know that every other library is quarantining for 24 hours
right
before they induct them into the courier system. So there's 24 hours there. From the time that they induct them to the time we get them here, at Oregon City is another 24 hours. So there's 48 right there. I am thinking of doing one more day. So if we receive a courier delivery on Monday, we would process those courier deliveries the next day on a Tuesday, which would give 72 hours from the time that it was originally handled. We know it's been handled according to our protocols that are in place that we want to observe here, that we want to be able to tell the community, you know, before we give you a library item, it has been handled in such a way for this, you know, length of time.
Right.
That's what we're looking at operationally here, is a 72-hour quarantine period. With the incoming courier materials, it would be 48 of that would already have been set, you know, we're already been experienced by the time we get them here in the building.
And
Yes, for
having,
the ones coming in from the Dropbox, it would be 72 hours.
having two different streams wouldn't make for inefficiency in handling?
No, we've dealt with it. We've learned to deal with it. You know, throughout this pandemic, it's also much easier. You know, it's consistency. We can tell our community. We can make sure we tell the community any material, any item that you get that we are handing out to you, you know, as best as we're able to determine, has been handled in this way. It's been quarantined for a period that we feel gives the most, you know, chance of being a very conservative amount of time to be quarantined. And it's regardless of whether it came from another library or something that's off our shelves, it's been handled in exactly the same way, and quarantined for the same amount of time. So, and operationally, what we do is when they come in, we have placards that we put on top of them, and they just say, you know, this arrived on this day, process it on this day. So for the courier materials, they came in on a Monday, you know, Monday or Wednesday the 14th, we would put something on there that says process Thursday the 15th, just to make it very clear for our staff. So does that,
It seems reasonable to me.
okay.
The OHA, you know, I mean, they seem to really not believe this realm study, that it was completely unrealistic.
I think so. We are all. I think yes. So the Lancet article that I looked at, which they cite, it's an opinion by a researcher who does bring up some thoughts about the methodology of the realm study. The one from Australia that just came out a couple days ago. I'm not an epidemiologist, which is none of us are epidemiologists, which makes this very, very difficult. It seems to have addressed some of those concerns. Like, for example, I know one of the concerns was that the amount of virus that was used in the realm study might have been unrealistically high. The study from Australia that just came out used the same amount of virus that would be in a COVID positive person, you know, as their inoculant sample. They did it in an artificial mucus drop, you know, that was placed on an item. So
They coughed on a book.
yeah,
Is that what?
and that's the concern is, yes, that either a staff person who could be unknowingly positive coughs on a book. That's why we wear masks when we're handling them. That's why we're wearing gloves and washing our hands. Or that somebody returning an item, you know, right before they drop it off, they cough on the book, and if that goes out to somebody else, that they could potentially get infected from it. So we want to maintain the safety of our community. It keeps me up at night knowing that we have a lot of our patrons are medically vulnerable. You know, we have a lot of older users. We have a lot of kids who are users, and so, you know, for me, I like the idea of being a little more conservative. But
I asked this 2 months ago, and I was curious if you've heard if there's an update. Has anyone contracted COVID-19 from library materials?
not that I'm aware of. We have not seen any. No, we have not seen any documented study of anybody contracting COVID-19 from library materials.
And is everyone in the Clackamas County Library service system, is everyone been safe so far in the last 6 months? I know you might not be able to answer that, but
What I can tell you is that I know that there have been cities in Clackamas County that have had COVID cases on staff. We do not get information whether that's, who that is within the city structure or what job position they're in. But I do know that there have been cases within cities.
Not traced back to the libraries, all of which are still closed, or?
Yeah, we would, the only thing I could specifically say was in Oregon City, no, there has been nothing, and I have not seen any publicly released information that would say that there was a COVID case traced back to materials handling in a library.
Any other comments or questions?
My question is, are you looking for something from us, Greg?
I would like to go with, I am planning to go with the 72-hour quarantine period for Oregon City Library materials. That is, I want to let the board know that might be different than what some other Clackamas County libraries are doing. And I would like to have, so I've heard the feedback on there. I know there seems like there's some different perspectives on that. It makes me feel better to know that I've shared that with you and that I've received your feedback. If you wanted to make a motion supporting that or not, or you don't want to make a motion supporting that, I'm fine either way. Doesn't, but I felt it was important for me to share that information with you and to have the discussion since you're the representatives of our community. So.
I would be willing to make a motion that the board supports Greg's plan to go to 72 hours, word it the way you wish.
I'll second that, Oz.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being willing to have conversation on a tough subject. So, but we'll do our best to get through this. Okay, and I think with that, I think that's all I have.
All right, so we will go now to communications. Nick, you have an update on LDAC? I don't think you've met, but.
No, we haven't met. And basically, Al's, the information that was put in by Greg into the report is basically the last thing I'm aware of. I mean, there's been, I think, there was some loose discussion about maybe trying to do a Zoom meeting, but I haven't heard any more about that. But
I haven't heard anything either.
So that's the update, really.
All right, thank you, Nick. Cynthia, do you have an update from the Library Foundation?
Just a brief one. We did meet last month. We will not meet this month. We have two short-term goals. One is to develop a partnership with the Oregon City Schools Foundation regarding the management and support of the Dolly Parton project. And that is going very well. There was a meeting between our chair, Karen Martini, and people from the Oregon City Schools Foundation, and a draft agreement, working agreement is in process. And the second is to expand and diversify our foundation membership. And we each have been tasked with contacting interested parties to see who might be interested in participating in the Library Foundation Board.
All right, thank you, Cynthia. Ken's not here, so Greg, you usually go to the Friends of the Library. Do you have an update?
Yeah, I'll give a very quick update. The biggest news from the Friends update, we made a request. We made two funding requests to them this month, and both were approved. One was for, they're going to provide an honorarium for Commissioner Rocky Smith for his presentation, since it's kind of weird to have a city department paying a city commissioner or something. They are going to make a donation to the Ermitinger House in his name as recognition of his contribution. And then the Friends did agree to fund, we are going to get a subscription to the New York Times. We're going in with some other, online New York Times. We're going in with some other members of Link that people will be able to go to a website and quickly get each chunk. You'll get 72-hour full access to the New York Times website. So you have full access to the website. This is going to be great for schools. They've got some curriculum materials that I think our schools are really going to find useful this year. So that's $1,200. The Friends agreed to fund that. And then their other big news, they have gotten some new volunteers on board. And they are planning to, they're going to try it in October. So they will be open, tentatively, they will be open Saturday, October 24th. And they are planning to have, that will be a special day for Friends members getting 50% off of any purchases that they make in the Friends store. And I think their goal is to try to do that once a month, to have a Saturday day that they're open once a month and offer that as a benefit to members. So Denise, did I miss anything else from the Friends?
That's basically it.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. Let's go to, are there any future agenda items that anyone wants to propose? Any new or unfinished business? All right, well, I would love to wish you all a safe and happy Halloween. And we'll see everyone back in November. And there's no further business, so the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Have a great
everyone.
evening.
Bye.
Hey, Greg,
Bye.
when's our next meeting? Because the 11th is Veterans Day, I believe.
Oh, goodness. That would be the second Thursday, wouldn't it?
Yeah, second
Or
Wednesday.
Wednesday, sorry. Denise, what do we do in cases, have we ever had a board meeting scheduled for Veterans Day?
Not that I can recall offhand.
I'm a veteran. I wouldn't mind.
I mean, the thing is, on the 11th, we'll be closed. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
Greg and I theoretically won't be working.
But if that's what works, well,
Yeah, I
I'll
mean,
speak for myself. If that's what works better for everybody else, we can certainly have a meeting that evening. The other option would be, since we're doing it via Zoom and we don't have to worry so much about getting the commission chambers, we could do it on a different day that week, different evening that week. If there's one that works better for everybody, I can send out a doodle poll if that's helpful, to see what availability is that week.
I'm retired. I can meet anytime.
I'm fine with the 11th. I just wanted to make sure, since it was a holiday, that everyone could make it.
It's fine with me.
But are you okay with a different day that week also, if we look at a different day, or do you prefer doing it on our same regular day?
I'm fine with the normal time, or any time after 5 o'clock is fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, so do a
All right, we'll send out a doodle poll and we'll figure out Veterans Day. So
Excellent.
good.
All right.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, everyone. We'll
Good
see you
night.
later.
Thanks.
happy Halloween. Thank you. Good night.